Welcome back to the Play by Play podcast. This is a bonus episode where today we will be looking at the recent signing of Ben Johnson going over to the Chicago Bears for one of the highest paid contracts in head coaching history. We'll be taking a look at Johnson's recent press conference that he had today with the Chicago Bears, point out his strengths, his weaknesses, and at the end, decide whether he is the man that is going to bring success to Chicago. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below, and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All of the ads will be down below. And like always, you already know the bar will be popping up right here. I appreciate you guys for all your support, and let's get into the video. So, in just the second head coach signing of the cycle, Ben Johnson is now the official head coach of the Chicago Bears. And this was something that was really interesting to look at from Ben Johnson's perspective. It's one of the first times, at least that I have noticed, that a coordinator has waited and bided his time over numerous coaching cycles until the right opportunity has come around. If you are not familiar with Ben Johnson, he has pretty much been the cream of the crop in terms of head coaching candidate over the last 2 or 3 coaching cycles. He's been in the cycle over the last 2 years. Last year, he was heavily rumored and wanted to go over to the Carolina Panthers, but he waited his time. Carolina had a rookie quarterback in Bryce Young that year, and now they have a rookie and now second-year quarterback in Caleb Williams that he is going to be taking over. And one of the richest contracts, like I mentioned, right now in his first year, going to be making $13 million. So it is clear, especially with the speed at which they hired Mr. Ben Johnson, that they wanted him, that this was the guy, this was at the top of their list. And why wouldn't they? Ben Johnson not only has been one of the most sought after coordinators, but he has also been some of the most successful. He has been a big part of this rebuild in Detroit. He has been a big part of what has taken Detroit to the divisional round this year and the conference championship last year. And just going off of that, on a quick note for Detroit, this is a huge blow for them, especially hearing today, and I'm going to be talking about this in the coming days, the fact that defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn is now leaving and going to the New York Jets. They now lose 2 of likely the best coordinators in the game as of right now. And when you have a head coach in Dan Campbell, who has proven to be successful, but isn't somebody that is mostly a strategist, he is more of a culture builder, that is concerning. And they're going to need some replacements very soon with the injuries that they have had, with some of the ways that the playoff is really set up for them going against the 6-seeded Commanders. I can definitely say that this year was Detroit's best chance at making it and winning a Super Bowl. And I think that they unfortunately wasted it. But we're not on Detroit. Back to Chicago, because Ben Johnson is one of the most offensively creative minds in this game right now. But he is heading into a situation that isn't all, sunshine and rainbows. Sure, there are a lot of weapons going on in the Bears offense right now. DeAndre Swift at running back, Cole Kmet at tight end. You have Odunze, you have Keenan Allen, you have DJ Moore. But we do have to understand the fact that, number one, Caleb Williams had a lot of struggles in his rookie year. There were times where his pocket presence wasn't the greatest. There was time where he was lacking in his deep ball. There were times where he was just simply holding on to the ball way too long. So there are still ways to go on a guy who was predicted to be a generational type talent. Some of the weapons that they have, while great, and the first one I'm going to point to is Keenan Allen, are getting older. Keenan Allen is definitely going to have a much smaller role, in my opinion, in next year's Bears offense. I think that they're going to be relying much more on both Rome Odunze and DJ Moore in that passing game. And Keenan Allen could pretty much get slided into that number 3 wide receiver on this team, just purely based on his age, some drops that he had this year. He definitely has taken a step back. And through all of this, we cannot forget that this Chicago's Bears offense had the worst offensive line in the league by far. Caleb Williams sacked a total of 68 different times. And that is something that Ben Johnson, that Ryan Poles is going to have to take very seriously. They're in a really solid position to go ahead and upgrade those positions. They have Darnell Wright at the right tackle. They're going to be in position to get one of the top offensive linemen in this year's draft, whether it's Will Campbell from LSU, Kelvin Banks from Texas. Maybe they like Josh Simmons coming out of Ohio State. So rather you play those guys on the opposite side of right at left tackle, or you like to slide in maybe somebody like a Will Campbell into right guard. But then they need to go out and they need to get free agents, such as Trey Smith from Kansas City. He's going to be one of the most sought after offensive lineman free agents this year. They need to be willing to make those moves, especially when you're hearing from Ben Johnson in this press conference that we're going to look at in just a minute, really doubling down on this organization and telling his players right away that they better be ready to compete. He is not here to play games whatsoever. He wants to be winning football games right away. He has built and come from a winning culture. He does not want that to stop forever. And before we get into that, just look into that video, just taking a look at Ben Johnson from an emotional perspective prior to this, because I think that while the strategy to a offensive coordinator and thus now a head coach is definitely important, you definitely want to see if a head coach can build a culture. It is the same thing in almost every single sport, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, you could look at baseball, college football. Every great organization, every great team has a really solid culture. You take a look at let's just take a look at football, the team that has been dominating so much this past year in the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that has prided themselves on a culture that has a ton of speed and athleticism offensively, a team that has rallied around two real superstars with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but also has rallied around the offensive mastermind behind it in Andy Reid. That is something that Ben Johnson is going to be looked at. He has the talent. He has a very similar talent pool to look at as Kansas City does if Caleb Williams can rise to the potential. Can he do that? But can he set a culture? I'll be honest, prior to his press conference that he had today, I wasn't a huge fan of just his demeanor. I liked him as an offensive coordinator, but I wasn't sure as a head coach how well he would interact with his players and, more importantly, with his quarterback. That's one thing that, like I mentioned, Dan Campbell does really well. Sure, you had Glenn and Johnson looking at the strategy behind him, but Dan Campbell is a very hyped up guy. He likes to get in your face, scream, believe in you, give you confidence. And that's one of the reasons why the Detroit Lions have been so successful over the past couple of years. Meanwhile, when you look at Ben Johnson on the sideline, he's very mute, very almost looks very stoic and angry at times, very sturdy. And I was not sure coming into this with them hiring him onto the Chicago Bears, how well that would really match up with Caleb Williams. Because don't get me wrong, Caleb Williams definitely is a competitor. He wants to win. He wants to continue going forward. But there are some moments, whether it's during the game or whatever, that you see Caleb Williams being a little bit quirky, a little bit funny. He throws a little smile, a little bit of laugh at sometimes. And from Ben Johnson, we really haven't seen any of that whatsoever, even when Detroit is being super successful. I will admit that in the press conference, he definitely did open up a lot. And like I said, we are going to take a look at that in a second. But that's going to be a big challenge for him, especially to buy in not only the team, but the fans to buy into this winning culture. Chicago is one of the most difficult cultures to be around in the NFL game right now. They are a team that demands success and demands it quickly. And if you can't give them success quickly, you're going to be out. And that's a real pattern with this Bears culture. You take a look a couple of years, this is a team that Matt Nagy took to the NFC playoffs twice with Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback. And yet after one bad year, he was fired as Chicago Bears head coach. You take a look at the fact that Lovie Smith, after a 10-6 season, was let go by the Chicago Bears. That is how harsh and that is how much Chicago Bears fans crave a winning culture and want to win as long as they can, right? Right. And also considering the fact that this division is not going to be tough. Johnson mentioned in his press conference today, he wanted to stay in this division. And when you look at the course, when you look at the fact that the Lions, we'll see how much these coordinator losses really hurt them, but they have the talent to continue to be successful. When you look at the fact that the Minnesota Vikings just extended Kevin O'Connell to a contract, and we'll see what they do at the quarterback position, but they still have one of the most talented offenses in the league. And if they keep defensive coordinator Brian Flores, are going to continue to be middle of the pack, if not top of the pack, when it comes to defenses. And when you look at the fact that the Green Bay Packers don't seem to be going really anywhere, despite the fact that I believe that I feel like they've been lacking weapons, but they have a new running back in Josh Jacobs. Jordan Love has been slowly progressing. The defense has been able to handle up pretty well as well. This is the division where all 6 games that you play against division opponents are going to be dogfights and are going to be much needed wins throughout the season. Can Ben Johnson rise to the table? We'll have to see. Let's take a look at his press conference and some of the things that he had to say. Okay, so once again, like always, I will always be linking the videos that I am reacting to or watching in the description. This one's by Fox 32 Chicago. And I'm just going to play about the last minute and a half. Not going to go too long with this, but just Ben Johnson's message to his players and the culture that he could potentially be building in Chicago over the next year. So let's watch.
With that being said, I do have a message here for the players. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. The bar has been set higher than it's ever been set before. The only way for this team and for you as individual players to reach your potential is to be pushed and to be challenged. And that's exactly what I and my staff plan on doing. We're going to push, we're going to challenge. And along with those high standards, there's also going to be a high level of support as well. Everybody in this building is going to be all about helping you guys out. How do you become the best versions of yourselves? That's what it's going to be about from start to finish. When you walk in, it'll be crystal clear, the communication, the structure, and the consistency. And that will never waver.
I'm not sure if the team is right next to him.
I'm assuming
that's so he's
our mission starting this spring is to win and to win now. I get goosebumps.
So again, you see it. It's good. It's definitely a great speech. It reminded me a lot of some of the speeches that Dan Campbell does. It was very demanding of his players. It was very confidence-driven. But there's also a little bit more of just that stoic personality. You saw it a little bit more in his eyes. Dan Campbell is definitely a lot more welcoming. He's definitely a lot more heartwarming. He's more of almost like this father-grandfather type of figure. Whereas Ben Johnson, he's going to look you right in the eyes and tell you what you're doing wrong. And so my question is, and I want this question also for any Bears fans, or even if you're just an NFL fan, do you think that's going to resonate well with the NFL players? I love it. I love the fact that he wants to win. I love the fact that he wants to come in here and change things immediately and not waste any time and go out and win. That's all you can ask out of for a head coach. But our players going to like it. Is he going to start giving those looks here and there? And players are going to be in any way intimidated by it, scared of him. Is the attitude of Ben Johnson going to work in Chicago? It's definitely going to be a change of rhythm for them. It's definitely going to be a lot harder than it was previously with Matt Eberflus. And it's definitely going to be a lot more offensive driven. And one thing also that I'm interested to see is how Ben Johnson attacks with this team in particular. Because when you look at the Detroit Lions, sure, they have a lot of great weapons in the passing game, such as Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. But their 1-2 punch with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, in my opinion, was their best line of attack and their first line of attack. You do have DeAndre Swift. He's a good back, but he's not Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery. You don't have a 1-2 punch anymore. And now because you have so many receiving options, you're going to have to rely on that a lot more. Is Ben Johnson going to be able to adjust that type of playbook that he has and make the air attack his number one option? Those are the questions that I have. And those are the questions that Ben Johnson will be answering in the 2025-2026 season. So that's all from me today, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Ben Johnson can save the Chicago Bears team? Do you think that he will finally break this curse and give the Chicago Bears some type of franchise culture and franchise success? I definitely think that he has an opportunity. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below, and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, come on now. What are you doing? Let's go ahead and follow those social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Go down below to all of those ads, and there will also be a bar popping up right here. Let's get those following lists up, baby. Thank you guys so much for your support. And like I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.